How's it going, everyone? It's Artifact, and in today's tutorial I'm going to keep you well equipped with a Neurofunk sword as you go into battle in this ever changing, treacherous Neurofunk landscape. So let's get into this tutorial of today. I have made another little loop, which is a continuation on the plasma stabs from yesterday. So if we just compare and contrast the original plasma stab, still quite a dutty sound. But I've gone on to make this Neuro Sword now, which is a continuation. But rather than having a stab, I've just changed a few settings to make like a sort of longer, funkier groove. So I'm just going to today explain a couple of little tips for getting some like extra groove into your bass line. So let's listen to it as a whole patch here. So I've actually gone on to post-process it, and that's something I'll save for my Patreon. But today we will get into the actual synthesis of the patch in Vital again, of course, because it's awesome and I love it. So all that we've changed from the previous patch is a few extra modulations and changes to the LFOs and the filters and one extra oscillator here. So if I quickly just talk about the LFO pattern, you can see what I've drawn in here. So I've kept it at 1 bar, and that's given me enough space that I can then draw in this kind of interesting sort of rhythmical pattern. So it kind of, if we just sort of pay attention to the dot as it moves along the line. So we've got that kind of wow, and that's quite an interesting little groove. And the thing that you can do when you're like designing a groove like this, like a little tip to get like extra groove is if you've got your drum beats already laid down. Mine are the Louch samples. Shout out, link in the description if you want a discount on them. They're really high quality. Anyway, if you want to like get extra groove, you can do things like just playing with the curve. You know, you've mapped out these little peaks and troughs, and then you can just by playing with the curve on each kind of line here, you can like get that kind of swing to the bass, so it kind of swings in and around the kick and the snare, and just like getting that perfect is gonna like enhance the overall like groove of your bass line. So that's something that you can definitely get really into, and just like sometimes you could even like sort of start pressing a point and then like close your eyes and then like really feel the beat and the bass at the same time, move it up and down until you've got like a really nice kind of groovy timing. And then I've played just a simple like pattern on the MIDI here. So it's D, and then it goes up to A sharp, and then it goes down to F, and then up to G. And that's just quite a sort of classic kind of progression, I suppose. There's a few other like stabs you can hear in there, which are post-processed as well. But there's another thing I've done in the modulation which makes it even more interesting, which is this LFO1 here. It's like a slower moving filter. You can see it just goes up like quite slowly. It doesn't even get all the way to the top yet, but and it restarts every time we get the change in the notes, like in the pitch, because it's set to trigger. So every time there's a MIDI note, a new one, it starts again. And this I've mapped it to, well, I can see 3 things here actually, but yeah, the first one is the new oscillator. So if I just preview that on its own. So it's basically like a kind of sine wave. It's been smeared a bit, so it's been distorted and twisted a little bit, and it's been ring modulated with the noise sample, so they're kind of multiplying each other, so we get like a blend of noise and kind of sine noise, sine, and then I'm a retard. Yeah. So basically, the other thing with this is I pitched it up an octave higher than the original kind of low sine wave here, so it's giving that kind of sub harmonic, you would say, like the higher octave up from your sub. And yeah, when I left it in originally, like the level all the way up, I was like, this is a bit too much, so I want it to sort of creep in, and that's what I've done here by turning the level all the way down and then mapping it to this LFO1, which goes up slowly. It creeps in slowly, so we get that kind of difference and variation across the bass as we hold the note out. And then the other two things I've mapped this slow moving LFO to is the filters. So the filters are already being modulated on this LFO, like they're doing that fast movement, as you can see. You can see how it's moving fast. That's when it's being modulated by this one. Well, it's just on this filter here. But by putting an LFO on, like a separate LFO on the same filter, it's just going down slowly. So what it's doing is it's doing its fast little movement, but at the same time as the note's held down, you know, that movement in itself is also coming down. So the overall kind of cutoff is also changing as the note's held out, and that gives the bass line also a little bit more changes, just slight sort of filter changes as it goes on, so it just becomes a little bit more natural. And I've done the same on filter 2 here, so this is the one that's it's affecting the kind of both of the sine waves and the noise, and that's got like a notch, and that's also moving down slowly, so we also kind of get that kind of slow natural feel to the bass. And yeah, that's pretty much the only changes I made. I left the effects all the same, but yeah, just getting this timing right, you know, really take your time to sort of hone in on the little individual parameters and create a cool groove like this. And then once you're sort of happy with that, you know, I've put a bunch of effects on it, and then I bounced it out. I did some post-processing, made some different kind of versions and with different effects on, and I'll probably explain more on that in the Patreon, because I do more like post-processing and mix down stuff in there. Yeah. So now you have your Neuro sword, you're well equipped for battle. Leave me a comment down below if you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a wicked day. Ciao.